horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a big welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Sunday Sermon. Today there's myself, John, and our special guest is Lorne Malvo from Twitter. And we've got an action-packed Sunday sermon to discuss several annoying little topics that always pop up during a week. But we'll discuss, first of all, glorious Goodwood. What we make to the whole, I'm going to call it a shit show this week. Guys, John, I'll go with you first. What have you taken out of Goodwood this week?
Well, it sort of reaffirmed my absolute concrete belief that there's no way the calibre of racing justifies a 5-day festival, for starters.
Yeah.
And also that clerks of the courses, as things stand, can just get away with blue screaming murder, because there's been nothing said about that watering in any form of media I can get my hands on. So there was some decent racing. I wouldn't say it was a complete farrago, but from a punting perspective, they're making it very hard for people to do any good on these big festival meetings, because you don't know what the ground is. And as I say, the races that they're padding these festivals out with just leave a lot to be desired, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few comments on this on Twitter. Thanks for your comments and questions. We'll get to answer a few in a minute, but the general consensus, and this is from Ewan Hutchinson's mentioned it, Frankie on the Blowers mentioned it, and basically they're saying, is it time, Chris, now to basically look at future festivals on the flat, because given the majority of them are run on softer ground, just back in mudlarks at these anti-posts at these festivals.
Yeah, I saw that earlier, that the tweet that referred to that, and I think that's probably not a bad strategy. That they always seem these days, well, latterly, to be run in sort of eye deep mud, and given the vagaries of the British weather, that might not be a bad idea. I mean, I think, and I can't remember, your guest on Friday made a very good point. I like a little bit of gardening because I'm over 50 years old, wear glasses on a chain, and I'm practically dead. But what he said, waiting for death. But what he said was, the more you water plants, the less you encourage them to put roots down. And that's absolutely right. If you want plants to put roots down, you've got to go easy on the water. And the point he made, and I do apologise because I'm old, I forget names. What he says is absolutely right. They kick the top off so easily because they're doused in water throughout, the period approaching the festival. So you're going to get lots of this sort of sloppy ground. So I think that's not a bad idea, actually. The more I think about it, the more I think that's potentially a real edge.
Yeah. I mean, certainly. I mean, the thing is as well, I mean, a friend of mine made a good point a few weeks ago, and he said basically what's caused all this is these super duper advanced drainage systems on racetracks, and what that's doing during the drought where it's 27, 28 degrees for a couple of weeks, like we're getting regular in British summers now. It'll go 25 to 30 degrees for a couple of weeks and, then probably tail off. But during them 2 weeks, they're having to water the shit out of the ground because the drainage system obviously has...
So effective.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Cheltenham festivals, John. Cheltenham festivals now. It's normal that they're watering on the run up to the Cheltenham festival in bloody March. I mean, that is got to be a product of the drainage system. Same with York. And the problem is then they start chucking too much on, and as we've seen week in week out these festivals, a couple of showers or a thunderstorm comes down, and all of a sudden it's carnage. I mean, the times on Saturday. This is summer. I mean, yes, they've had rain this week there. I do accept that, but to see the times on Saturday Wonderful Tonight, which is basically an arc filly, 11 and a half seconds slower than standard. I mean, this is brutal. This is their expertise. Now, I don't respect Clark of the courses anymore. I don't know what the BHA, whether they have any influence on what they do. Because, I mean, you got Sandown's Clark of the course the other week that decided he'd walk the course, during about 9 a.m. just so he could get in front and tell ITV viewers on the opening show while everybody else is waiting for a going update to place the bets and and can't because he wants to get on telly. These Clarks now are just becoming ridiculous. And
I think the entry qualification, Lee, must be you just got to own a pair of green Hunter Wellies and own a fucking stick. That's it. I mean, then you're in. I don't see much more evidence of their skill set based on the the ground that they produced in the last sort of few festival meetings, really.
Okay, so I mean, we've covered it. We've done the Clarks. We've probably done that to death. So we'll just move on. I mean, obviously performances this week, John. Anything sort of catch your eye? I mean, we know about Baid, and we know he's Group 1, etc. on what we saw. But anything catch your eye elsewhere, maybe?
Well, outside of the shagging shirts best miler in Europe, probably not really. I did think that the Johnson horse that won over a mile and a quarter, I thought that hinted at probably plenty more to come at a mile and a quarter, maybe even a mile and a half. Quadder, is it?
Quadder, yeah. He's an horse I've been backing, but typically I didn't back him. Backed him at Ascot in the Britannia. Ran okay. But the 10, like you say, probably brought around I would say £7 to £10 worth of improvement all at once. So like you say, race him again over 10. He might do more on better ground as well. He's interesting.
He could possibly end up maybe even verging on Group 2 standard, I thought.
Well, he was high class, wasn't he? At 2, he was sort of Royal Ascot 2-year-old standard.
Didn't he place in the Coventry or something?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. He ran very, very well in one of the big group races. 2. Obviously, I've not got it in front of me, but yeah. Plenty to come from Quad. I agree with you. I know it's a winner, but at least, like you say, there's plenty more scope. I think might get even further the way it kept going.
Yeah.
Chris, any highlights of the week for you?
I hated it all, actually. I mean, did my money over the pit. So I'm very much. People on Twitter would hate me even more for it, but I'm a pocket talker. So had I won money, it would have been the greatest meeting of recent years because I did my money. I thought it was dreadful. I mean, I suppose the only horse that I quite liked the look of was on the Thursday, that Wilderness Girl of Baldings with Buick. I thought that looked very professional. I think that might go on to be a little bit better. But I thought the last few days of the meeting I thought were awful. I just couldn't see anything to get excited about. Bad ground, just a shit show, really. So not really for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say, chaps, I had a horrendous Saturday. I lost a lot of money Saturday, and it was very painful. I feel slightly annoyed at myself for getting too involved, really. When all week I've been quite tentative because of the ground and everything, and for some reason I decided to be Terry Ramsden yesterday, and started blasting. Stakes went up for some bizarre reason, and I watched the massive black hole. At the end of the day, I mean, like I said, it's painful that you make these choices. This is what I do for a living, and I had a few moans on Twitter yesterday at the standard of our tipping. Well, we do say get on the pink button, and we did. We had a pretty poor day Saturday on the whole on the bar stewards, but. I mean, there've been some bright points. Catherine Fry, fantastic. She did last week with some terrific selections, including the big Blazers winner, 20 gambled as well, 25s into 10s. So well done, Catherine. She carried us all, and it's quite a weight to carry. I can assure you. Yeah. So that was the week that was. Right, our first topic then. We've had a lot of discussion about jockeys, chaps, and I think it was there to see again at Goodwood some of the poor standards of jockeyship. And I think this isn't pocket talking in my perspective. I was just laughing at them all coming down the centre in Mr. Wagyu. Mr. Wagyu came across in the sprint, and then the ones that were drawn low in that sprint all moved across into the centre. John, have you anything to sort of add to the standard of jockeyship we're seeing possibly of late?
It's very hard to add anything constructive when you see them all just congregating in the middle of a track like that, when you know it's virtually going to mean that they're racing in soup. I mean, I was particularly depressed by the Mr. Wagyu situation, because if you remember, one of my 4 selections in the race was second, and I was actually counting on something taking on Mr. Wagyu and just ensuring that he did drop away. I was feeling the worst 2 out, actually. I thought, shit, this is going to hold on, and sure enough it did. Possibly a big improver, but I find it hard to believe it's had another £10 up its sleeve after it's continually gone up this year. But as you say, the jockeyship's unbelievable in some of these races. Ryan looks like, well, he's getting a touch of the Holly Dalers, looking like he can't settle a horse.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Franklin went very keen on him, probably hitting the ground anyway, but that was virtually dead 3 furlongs out. Looked as though it finished with a problem. There was just so many dark points during the meeting. I mean, York's going to feel like the relief of Mafeking here if it's actually going to go down.
Yeah,
emergency. Yeah.
I mean, this leads me on to a question from Carl Swanson, and he says that is the standard of jockeys on the wane? He said he was put off by backing Snow Lantern this week due to Spencer being aboard. Carl, you what a fantastic judge you are, because Snow Lantern got Spencered. And and he says, I've heard you and John say about SDS, on the wane, blah blah blah, but he can judge pace from the front. Like I said, he's good from the front.
I'm not jockey. So.
Yeah, he asks, chaps, has the days of the clock in the head gone? Was there ever any day where jockeys had a clock in the head? They used to say Corth and John, for example, had a clock in his head. Was that rubbish?
I think it's over-exaggerated, and anybody that wants to take the converse view should have a look on YouTube and watch Belmez's King George win when Steve actually ran old Dick into the ground. I mean, Belmez wouldn't have seen which way that had gone if that set even fractions, where he fought off challenger after challenger, and Belmez was the last one that was just too much for him. Yeah. So I mean, he could get it wrong. If you watch Piggott on Alleged in the 77 Ledger, Dunfermline had 2 pacemakers that year. It had Gregarious and then Leicester on Alleged chasing the pacemaker. So I mean, they all get it wrong from time to time, but then you look at the likes of Spencer and you just think these people habitually get it wrong. I mean, irrespective of what's going to happen in a race, Spencer's default position is to walk out the gate and sit last. Well, that's terrific if they're setting suicide fractions, but 9 times out of 10 they're not. So your horse is just starting the race at a massive disadvantage anyway. I mean, he's not even letting the horse jump and having look-see for 20 years and seeing what sort of pace he's going to be on.
Do you agree with Piggott's long-standing comments of that you shouldn't give jockeys instructions because the good jockeys know what to do anyway, and he says most of the bad jockeys won't be able to carry them out.
No, because the good jockeys don't know what to do. If that's the case, there was no good jockeys riding in that Stewards Cup cancellation race.
Yeah.
Because none of them knew what to do. So what do we assume there? They were all idiots, or nobody got any instructions, or what?
Well, that's the thing. Surely it must come from trainers and owners what to do. Like if I were in the Mr. Wagyu race, if I was drawn 1 to 4 or something like that, you'd just literally. I know it didn't work out because the far rail probably wasn't much good anyway, but it's bonkers to sort of move across into the middle on the wing. And I found the lack of ingenuity from some of them just.
Well, I do think a fair degree of it is a lack of instruction. I mean, you only have to listen to that idiot at Midland, don't you? Saying he never gives any instruction. The hell's that all about?
But you're not allowed to criticise them anymore, are you? I mean, everybody knows that Twitter is a cesspit. But as soon as someone dares criticise an injudicious ride, there's a sort of a pylon by all these sort of virtue signalling accounts saying, how many winners have you ridden, talking through your pocket, etc., etc. So they're protected, aren't they, from any kind of criticism or feedback by people, who should be in the camp of punters. I mean, I stay out of any kind of interaction really on Twitter, but they're all shapes and sizes, aren't they? You get the blokes who habitually leap to the defence of pretty female jockeys. So I'll leave you to see why that is. And then you get the sort of what I call the pseudo insiders, and they tend to be younger people, and they either write a blog that no one fucking reads, or they've got a share in one, been on a couple of stable visits and had a newsletter. And all of a sudden, they're at the heart of racing, defending trainers and jockeys from people that don't know any better. And what they don't realise is that, a lot of these syndicate members are regarded by trainers as sort of carcasses that have yet to be picked clean, right? So these guys would not, piss on your tongue if your mouth was on fire. And yet they have armies of people that are prepared to defend the indefensible. And, whatever they say or do, jockeys, they're just immune from criticism. Nobody's sort of saying that you should threaten people and all that sort of rubbish, or say people are in the pay of Ladbrokes for throwing races. But, criticism and feedback is shut down routinely on Twitter by punters or by race goers. And I think that's really disappointing. And so until you get that kind of feedback, nothing's going to improve, really.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that, because I've done it myself with jockeys, on my personal account, and I've sometimes I've even tagged them in it, as if to say I'm not just being a faceless warrior. I just think that deserves. But then I've also praised the other. But the problem is with Twitter, the cesspit that it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously we've had the Safi Osborne scenario recently, and there are so many like Looney Tunes out there that just abuse because they've just lost a short head in a photo because and I mean there's so many finishes where you could probably say, well, if she or he could have changed the whip hand and got that, that it would have won, or if you'd have made that maneuver, it would have won. But I think the problem is sometimes we look at Twitter and we think, you see some abhorrent abuse. Let's be right. These lads, and I'm not defending, because I mean we're the bar stewards and we tend to criticise where others fear to tread. But at the same time, sometimes I just see for an unlucky loser. Sometimes I see unlimited abuse, and I think that's where we need to sort of like be careful of.
Sure.
We need to be critical, and we need to attack, but at the same time, I don't know. It's a fine line for me because
it is a fine line. Yeah, I mean, nobody here or anyone reasonable condone sort of threatening people and all that sort of crap. And you discard, Kieran from Stockport or Bob from Stoke who says that this jockey is being paid to throw races. You discard that. But it seems to me that even legitimate criticism is shut down with the how many winners have you ridden by the how many winners have you ridden brigade. And look, I think it's sort of symptomatic of society. Just grow up, grow a pair. I've fucked up in life a lot, and I've had the dog's abuse for it. And obviously not on social media, but by people that have been affected. So it's part and parcel of life. I think. I don't know whether I'm an old gammon, probably, but I think some red-faced, sweating racist from the Shires that hates everything, but I don't think I am, and I just think it is a balance, and I just think people have got to maybe grow up a little bit and accept that it's part and parcel of being in the public eye. But maybe I'm wrong, and I probably am.
No, I mean, as I said, to me, it's fair game for constructive criticism. Yeah. I mean, John, what's your view on say online criticism of jockeys and defense? I mean, I take Chris's point that the media will, you've got your Nick Lux, you've got they all defend everything. They defend the Clarks, they defend the trainers, they defend the jockeys. It's pretty defensive, wouldn't you agree?
There's certainly not many that call out bad rides. And then, as you mentioned, on the other side of the coin, you've got the situation where there's the fella sat in his bed, in his resting pants, typing in block caps.
That's me.
While you're asking his sister.
Yeah. I don't even wear pants, though. That's the thing. That's the difference. Just the vest and a pair of shoes.
God.
And a pair of shoes. Yeah, that's it. Wellingtons. But I think one chap that I think I don't know, I think you've tried to get him on, a chap who has a Twitter account called Icy Tentacles. He earlier in the year or last year, he did a sort of 100 commandments of betting. And one of those struck me, which was that, the pundits and the media are the first to defend the most rancid aspects of the game. The people, if you gave them $5,000 and said, right, survive, they'd go skint in 3 weeks. So, you're never going to get the media calling out poor behaviour or bad rides. It just, it's just too cosy, and it's just not going to happen. But that's fair enough. But when you get sort of, Joe Public's being shut down, I think it's a bit odd that criticism is not accepted or taken on board. It's just, maybe it's just life in general, I think.
No, like I said, yeah, I agree with all. It just is the way of the world, and I think sometimes you get a Safi Osborne situation where that's beyond the pale.
Different.
In fact,
yeah, that's different though, isn't it? That's threats. I mean, that's not criticism. That's just hateful comments that need to be taken forward by police or whatever. But what I'm talking about is that was a shit ride, you're an idiot. I think, whatever people may think of the intemperate language, I think that's somebody's point of view. Somebody who is a pocket talker, which is a good thing in my view, because, if you're a pocket talker, you've got skin in the game, right? You've got a financial interest in the outcome. So I'm more interested in your opinion than some talking head that never had a bet in their life. Their opinion, unless they're absolutely superb judges, is meaningless to me. So pocket talking, I don't think is a problem really, providing it's done in a measured manner.
Yeah. No. Okay. Right. So we move on.
Yeah.
And we're going to split up the show with a fun question, really, from a good listener of the show. And he's worth a follow. Is John Hines? It's Mr. 101 on Twitter. If you just type in John Hines, I think you'll find him. That's Hynes. I think he's got a lot of good opinions on the sport. Some I don't agree with. For example, John is he's anti-whip. He wants the whip banned. But as I said, he's got experience in the game. He's a full timer, and he's got some really good views and opinions. And he shares a lot of good media stuff that I also read and catch up on. So thank you, John, for that. And he's got a fun question. And he says, if you could swap two Olympic presenters, commentators, for two racing presenters, commentators, who would go and who would come in? I will go to John first on this one.
Two Olympic presenters.
I don't know any. You, John.
Well, I would definitely bring in Alex Scott, who has incurred the wrath of Lord Digby Jones over
That's just your politics, John.
over her renunciation this week, and I think anything that upsets Lord Digby is all okay by me. So I would definitely bring her in, and then possibly Michael Johnson, former fastest man on earth.
Oh yeah. He's terrific.
I think he could come in a sort of Mikey Holding type role.
Yeah.
If they'd had cricket in the Olympics, I'd have been shouting for Mikey to be brought over from that. But there's things there. I'll have to go on Michael Johnson, I think.
Yeah, that's a good chat. I mean, the Michael Johnson thing does remind me of Mikey Holding in the breath of fresh air. He's brought to at the races punditry. I think it's a real breath of fresh air. And Michael Johnson's the same when on athletics. I could listen to him all day. And yeah, so so John, come on, because we're bar stewards, right? Who would you out of the commentary teams in favour of those?
I think what would be incredibly amusing is if you put Peter Norton in charge of the beach volleyball. Because to try and get a couple of words strung together from him while he's furiously frapping away under the desk. Fantastic. He's take Michael Howard with him as well, I think, and I think that'd be great TV, to be honest. Just watching him getting increasingly flustered and having to send out for extra Kleenex.
Yeah. With me today, I've got Mark Howard with me, and we're doing the beach volleyball. What do you think? What do you think to the Venezuelans, Mark?
Yeah.
But yeah, so fantastic question, Chris. Have you anything to add on this?
Given that the only place I run at is at the nose, I've got nothing really to add. I haven't watched any Olympics. I like to take my own drugs rather than watch other people take them. So nothing for me. Got nothing to add. But I do like John's suggestion to switch. I think that's very. I think that could work really. That would certainly put viewing figures through the roof, I'm sure.
I concur. To be honest, I think. To be honest, I would get rid of the shouty man. I would send to the BBC, and the shouty man could probably do something. I don't know, something quieter than to make him not shout maybe on the BBC. But
put him on the snooker commentary.
Yeah. the shout.
Whispering Ted Lowe. He's dead now, isn't he? But yeah, get him and replace the snooker commentary team. I think.
Shouty man on the snooker. Yeah, where you've got to.
But they're red.
He's only got to miss it.
It's final frame and down in the theatre of dreams.
It's in the pocket.
Exactly. There you go. That's not a bad impression, actually. That's pretty good.
That's class. Okay, we'll move on. Fantastic question, John. Brightens the show up as always, and some terrific answers there from John. We move on to the final subject this week, which is obviously the Racing League began on Thursday. Not the ideal timing, I wouldn't have thought, really, to launch an exciting new innovative product. Ian Davis has got his views on this, and his question was, Racing League is the bastard spawn of next Saturday's Shergar Cup. And he basically, that's it. He kind of, obviously that's his views. And we've had a lot of tweets come in, a lot of DMs come into Twitter, etc., YouTube, that have said that it does not make any difference. You back a winner, you don't give a rat's toss who the team is. What are we I mean, right, my first question then is to John, and it's what the Racing League. What would you do to improve it if it's here to stay, or would you just get rid of it full weight because it's a waste of time?
We are top of the league, so we are top of the league.
You are going down, so you're going down. Yeah.
I mean,
you're going on a bastard ambulance.
Yeah. He's fat, he's shit, he's always unfit. John Gosden or something, whatever.
Who's top of the league?
Goose.
Right.
I don't know. I actually do, honestly, I haven't even looked at the league table. I mean, by the way,
it's a good job you haven't, because there doesn't appear to be one. This is how good this is. I'm actually on the website now.
Yeah.
And they're telling us that in July 2021, for 6 weeks, 12 teams will go head-to-head every Thursday evening.
Right.
Yeah.
And a bit further down, it's telling you can buy tickets for race day 1 at Newcastle. So, obviously, on Thursday, they've had a bloody good lunch and they're still sleeping it off.
That's disgraceful from the CEO.
Scroll down a bit further, you've got a quote from Hayley Turner, OBE no less. I didn't know she got an OBE.
Really? OBE?
Yeah.
It's
great that the Racing Inc. has decided to try something a bit different. I know the jockeys and trainers are all really excited. Well, Grant Chower certainly was.
Well, yeah.
I think it will help to capture a non-racing audience and be a fun event all round. Well, if racing people can't find the frigging league table, what the hell chance has anybody got who's not interested in racing? Well, what they're going to do? Google, I'm not interested in racing. Have you got anything for me? I mean, what the hell are they thinking? Seriously?
They're not thinking, though, are they?
Apparently, my researchers just popped in and just said she's popped the league table in front of me, and it's on the William Hill Racing League Twitter account, apparently.
Oh, so we're in league with the bookmakers then.
Well, it's the William Hill, yes. So
there's teams here telling you that there's Paddy Mathers, David Allen and Paul Hannigan on the Easterby Fahy team. They've all got the team colours and what have you. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know if either of you lads have seen a programme called Hunters on Netflix. There's a Sister Harriet who's hunting Nazis, and she's a pyromaniac nun. And one of her favourite tricks is to take a blowtorch to the Nazis' knackers. And I quite seriously think she would be a fantastic addition to one of these racing league meetings where she'd liven up some of these pilots on the BHA who really need their knackers scorching.
Maybe you should pitch that idea. I think it's got legs, really.
I mean, like I said, I'd love John Lang in charge of the BHA. I would. In fact, that's when I'd probably start to come alive. I'm feeling quite dead after all this lockdown rubbish and everything else. And if John Lang become head of the BHA, I would be. It would bring me to life, I think. So if you want to see the league table, go to William Hill Racing League on Twitter. But I mean, as we've said, Steve's messaged in and he said, with competitive races, decent horses, good prize money and everything, isn't the Racing League a vision of what racing should be without the teams, John and Chris? Whoever wants to come in.
He's not far wrong, is he? The prize money's okay. There's probably some people involved who'd rather not be involved, but they've had to get the teams together. This is quite funny. The Team Ireland is O'Brien.
I had to laugh as well that Team Ireland are like third from bottom, and it's like you could just see the dirty Irish, they sort of tailed off out the back, and then it's like the last two or whatever, like they land in gambles right, left, and centre, as they've got horses down a few pounds. That's it. Wade in.
Well, can they bring subs on? Because by about the end of September, they might be taking off the baby Joseph and bringing on the fetus.
Yeah.
The fetus.
He's got 5 or 6 he's been coking up, and they've all got £15 in hand.
Yeah.
Got Ronan McNally in the wings as well.
Ronan McNally and Emmett Mullins waiting to come in for the old carrot at the end.
Yeah, Michael Winters as well. He's got a couple lined up.
The poor old new race goers that they're wanting to attract, and they look at the race cards. By the way, that the courses still aren't printing.
Where the bloody hell have they got these team names? Team Thoroughbid, Team Bullion Vault, eToro Racing, Goat Racing for God's sake, Team Odds Bible, Team Ireland, Team Arena for Christ's sake, Team Swish, and Team Talk Sport.
Well,
you have Mike Perry racing manager. Oh, it's Alan Brazil.
I mean, some of them, it must be a money launderer's dream.
Well, it's a bit learner for Alan Brazil, you know. I mean, the amount of thought has gone into this. I mean, somebody's thought this up with 15 minutes on the bog, writing it on a fag packet.
But by the way, they still haven't come up with the proof of where the money's coming from to fund this. They've still not like, you know, like publicly said where this money's come from. As far as I'm aware, I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I've tried to find out myself. Can't find this money that's been injected.
Diverted the money from a scanner that was ordered for a kid's hospital or something.
I mean, it literally is. I don't know. I mean, anyway, I mean, the point is, are we being old, cantankerous, you know, not willing to change punters? I mean, we've slagged it off. We slagged Shergar Cup off. Is it us that's basically been, you know, not embracing change?
No, because I want to be on this shade.
Agree with that. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what was annoying for me. I mean, just, you know, everyone wants to look at who owns the horses, right? Because that's actually quite key to betting. Yeah. Because if you think about it, right, before you place your bet, you want to know who owns this. That's why there's so many owners these days hiding in syndicates, because, you know, with these daft syndicate names that they come up with, to get a price. Now, the point is, if you then just put it into team names, I've lost track of, well, hang on a minute, does McManus own that? Does you know, I mean, because that's important for betting. You know, you need to know that you're on a trier in this game, and the problem is half the time, you know, you do check the owners to see.
How did the cards appear in the post, Lee? I never even looked at the card on Thursday night.
It was just, it was just the new colours, obviously, that matched the team, and the team name underneath.
Oh my God.
So you haven't. So basically, like, JP could send 3 or 4.
Oh, that's out the window then, isn't it?
Yeah, with a baby and the fetus, and just you know, and just basically run under these black or whatever colours they are, and obviously you can't see that from a race card. You have to delve further that who does own that, you know, kind of thing. And I think that's this is just so anti-betting. I mean, this is the thing, you know, having watched ITV racing on Saturday for a bit, because I thought, do you know what, I'll give ITV racing a whirl. I've never been a fan, but that's just because obviously I'm not really interested in all sound bites and everything else. But I was surprised how little coverage betting got.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the sport, because surely I've had this argument and debate that people, you need to attract new customers to the sport. Well, the current system it's the levy, which requires people to have bets. Now, what use is it attracting, you know, like, you know, Chelsea from Barnsley to a Donny meeting that's not going to have a bet and just stand there getting pissed all day waiting for Boyzone to come on at 5:30? That's not going to help the sport. It helps the track. It helps arena racing. It helps, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it does not make prize money better for owners. It doesn't improve the sport at the grassroots. So where are we going with this?
Well, you see, while racing can still put a good lunch on for people at the BHA, they won't even acknowledge that there's a financial crisis. And the only way you'll get that to happen is when somebody somewhere finally prints off a balance sheet, rolls it up and shoves it squarely up somebody's ass. Then you might just find that somebody takes a bit of notice of the fact that you need people betting. And at the minute, the whole presentation of racing is being geared towards this narrative that says, well, we've got to be promoting responsible betting, and if you were going to have more than a fiver on, you can bugger off, basically, because we don't even want you.
Yeah. We've made the point before, haven't we? Punters are toxic as far as the bet. They want to talk about anything other than betting. So it's, sound bites, human interest stories. But, betting is gone right down in the pecking order in terms of the coverage that the media affords it. Punters are toxic. We're the new tobacco, right? It's as bad as smoking fags now, having a bet. But that's all well and good. But as you both point out, the sport is funded by people having a bet. and all this notion, we got to have more young people in. Well, racing's always been an old person's sport. You get into racing in the main. I accept there will be exceptions when you're a bit older. Now, I didn't. I got into it quite early, so I'm probably one of the few exceptions to the rule. But it's an older person's pastime. I don't think you need to be trawling the youth clubs looking for a new client base. People find racing naturally if the product is attractive. And at the minute, I don't think it is.
No, I mean, as I said, you can't go again. The BHA must. It reminds me of this current government that the BHA must be in cahoots with something, because everything is done, like you've said, Chris, against the punter. Yeah. And for example, you tell the BHA about the affordability checks on Betfair. You tell the BHA about opening a new Sky Bet account or a Bet365 account, and if you win a few quid, and I'm talking peanuts, literally you could get the dreaded email, no, you can't have another bet. Now, how is that helping the levy? I mean, these guys are just walking into oblivion. I mean, it literally is the band on the Titanic. The BHA are the band on the Titanic. It literally is. They're just overseeing this mess that's going to end up going into the ground wall of shame.
Crisis of leadership. I mean, they changed the CEOs like they changed their trousers. They come and go. They have a short tenure. They leave under a cloud, or they're forced out. But there's no one there for the long haul. It's all a bit like football managers, isn't it? Where you get clubs in crisis that change their manager every season, and the fans, moan there's no continuity or strategy, and there is no leadership at the BHA at all.
We can't expect a good appointment though, because. No. The CEOs are appointed by these same idiots we say running the sport. I'm not going to have a blind clue how to get or who's strong enough to run the flaming sport.
And it's all in a way corrupt, because the way it works is, and I know this from contacts I've had dealings with, that basically it's all about lobbying. Bookmakers will lobby MPs, they'll lobby that, it's all about getting the right result. Like to keep their status quo in the game, as in like, right, we're satisfying our shareholders, we're making plenty of money, we don't want this legislation brought in. It's all lobbying behind the scenes. It's all bent, and it's all designed against the punter, and we can see that because I got an email today from someone that follows BetAngel, a trading app on Twitter, and Goodwood, glorious Goodwood, the entire meeting is £10 million down on turnover on the Betfair exchange this week. 10 million from last year. In 1 year, 10 million. I mean, that is some turnover. That's commission that goes to the levy. That's et cetera, et cetera. What on earth? And this is while BHA just, order another lunch and find another double barrel name jockey a fine for a non-triers rule, at Portman Square. It is remarkable. I mean, the amount of silence on this, and the reason we set up Bar Stewards Inquiry was to basically make people aware of these issues. Nick Luck does a fantastic job. I like Nick Luck. Nick Luck has a fantastic show. Lydia, fantastic journalist. But it's all the same. They will not criticise what should be criticised because they're on the payroll. Yeah. Lydia's the same. Lydia was silent on Andrew Cooper. Nothing. trying to defend the indefensible. I'm sorry, but because Lydia's a regular attendee at Sandown, so on and so on. It's boring. We've got people just literally just taking the piss out of racing, and from top to bottom, it's really difficult. So this is why the Bar Stewards was set up in the first place, to obviously cover these topics and say how it is. Do you feel that way, John? Do you feel quite passionate?
Well, I do. I mean, I've followed racing probably since I could speak, really.
Yeah.
Some people probably say I don't speak technically well now.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I love the sport. I want it to do well, and I want more people to like it. And it's just not happening because there's absolute idiots in charge. Everywhere you look, be it at the top of the BHA, the stewarding, the clerks, wall to wall idiots, and nobody's calling it out.
And when you do, it's like Chris said earlier on in the show, and this comes back to when you do call it out, the racing media seems to have this like defense mechanism where it makes out you're a nutter or
you're an agitator, a trouble causer.
Yeah.
Like that, and it's not the case. You just want people to do well, and they're not doing well. 10 million down turnover, Goodwood.
Yeah. That's the figures, yeah. Which is very concerning.
To have a bet.
But what John says is right about idiots. I mean, years and years and years ago, in a former life, I was asked by Roger Buffum. Remember Roger Buffum, head of Jockey Club Security? I was asked to take up a position as a betting intelligence officer, right, because of a particular background in a particular government department I had. So I rocked up to Portman Square and had a lovely lunch, I have to say. It was delicious. Roger was, this was about 3 months before he had he had to leave the post because there was some sort of coverage in the paper about some South African bloke he was in business with that was torturing people. But that was another story. And anyway, so I took an aptitude test, and it was racing questions, and 100 racing questions, and I got like 99 right. The one I got wrong was the length of the French Derby, right, the distance of the French Derby. So they said, this is fantastic, you're our man, blah blah blah, etc. etc. We're going to do some better due diligence on you, better background checks, and I failed the background checks because they said, well, it's come to our attention that you've got betting accounts in the days when you could have betting accounts, so we're concerned that you might use that information for personal gain. Well, the answer was, of course I fucking would. But but my stock reply was absolutely not. That's an outrageous assertion and, impugning my integrity. But they wouldn't have it. And they said that, it's a matter of policy that if you've, it's obviously changed now because they've got specialists in the department. But at that time, it was, you like a bet. So we couldn't possibly have anybody that knows actually about the thing you're meant to be investigating. So I was sort of sent a nice letter. Thanks for your interest. You're entirely suitable, except the fact that you actually know a bit about the subject matter. So that was that. And I think, although it's probably changed a bit, I think there is still echoes of that kind of behaviour that permeate the the higher echelons of the sport. But yeah, there you go.
It was the same with stewards. Stewards were recruited purely on background. If you were from a good family, there was no way on earth you would be any way corrupt. You glance at this government, for example, and there's so many from wonderful families. Yes. You draw your own conclusions about corruption, don't you?
Of course. And and that was kind of as a layman, I thought, well, hang on a minute, surely that's a good thing, isn't it? Oh no, that's a terrible thing, said the Jockey Club HR person who deals with the background checks. Oh no, we couldn't possibly have anybody that understands the underlying subject matter. And in sort of the pre-selection, I got to know a few of the old boys that were betting intelligence officers. I mean, way back, this is sort of late 90s, and they're all all ex Old Bill or ex MI5, and but bless them, they hadn't got the first clue about it. That they were telling me, they thought, they were trying to convince me that Graham Bradley was an apprentice. I said, no, he's a professional jockey. Oh no, he's one of the apprentices. Literally, that was the level of lack of understanding. So, no wonder, in those bad old days, people got away with, because they just didn't know what they were looking at all. But they were quite happy again to have a nice car. I think it was a BMW 5 Series. You got fat pension, big expense account. I thought, yes, please, I'll have a bit of that. But that wasn't the way they wanted to recruit.
No, good story, and I think that's a good way to end. I think we've had a cracking chat, folks. Just to let you know what's coming up this week, the usual Friday show covering the Shergar Cup shit show. So we've wheeled out Andy Richmond to do that with me and John next Friday, because we need some proper experts really to go through that terrible card that we all dread every year next weekend. And then on the Sunday sermon, we've wheeled out the Irish heroine, Catherine Fry, to join us on next week's Sunday sermon. So we hope that you enjoyed me, John, and Chris today. I certainly have a cracking show, and I wish you all the best of luck this week, and we'll see you again on Friday. Bye for now.